How's it going, Eliminators? Today, we're going to be working on a Toro single-stage snowblower that a customer dropped off and said there was an issue with the belt and pulley for the impeller. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So in the shop today, we have a Toro Power Clear 721E. So it's a 21-inch with a 212cc 4-cycle engine. So this takes straight gas and you have to put oil into the bottom end. There's no mixing of fuel required. And like I said, my customer mentioned there was an issue with the pulley for the impeller, and also he wanted a new belt. So we're going to be starting by removing this belt cover access panel here. And there's just a bunch of 3/8 bolts that we have to remove. Once we get those bolts out, the panel just holds itself in via a couple little locating tabs there, so we can just take that off and put it to the side for now. And the belt and the pulley is now exposed, so we can see the damage to the pulley. It has been cracked, and the bolt here has kind of worn itself away. It looks like quite a bit of damage here. Now, as good as these single-stage snowblowers are, unfortunately, there are no shear pins inside of the front auger housing. So in the event that you hit a chunk of ice or a piece of wood or any kind of debris that would not normally go through a snowblower, on this type of design, all of that force is going to be sent back into the plastic drive pulley here. Now, my customer owns a landscaping company, and he did mention that one of his workers did hit something to cause this damage, and then they tried to do a quick little weld repair back at the shop to try to get this thing working again. But as you guys can see, it's just broken and parts need to be replaced. They don't look like they can be repaired. So we're going to start by trying to remove that bolt and the pulley. Now, to remove this, I am using a 7/16 socket, and I'm doing it on a ratchet because I don't want to use my impact, because I don't want that bolt to break. But as we can see, it turned out easily enough. The threads seem to be all right on the shaft there. So now with that bolt out, I should be able to pull the pulley off of the shaft. Hopefully there's not too much damage on the shaft. Now, before we can remove the impeller pulley here, we do have to put the idler arm under a little bit of tension, because that will release the brake from the pulley here. So basically, when you get on the lever on the handlebars, the cable pulls your idler arm like this. The idler pulley tensions the belt, and because the brake pivots there, it releases from the pulley. Now, we don't want full tension on the belt, obviously, because we're removing the pulley. So working by myself, I pulled the lever back just a little bit and then used a quick clamp underneath the lever just to keep a little bit of tension on the cable here. Now, doing that relieves the brake enough so that I can remove the pulley. However, doesn't put full tension on the belt, so we should just be able to pull that off. Luckily, that wasn't seized. So it looks like we have a plastic pulley with a metal insert on the center that's held in place by these 3 tabs. Now, the way that this little center hub piece holds itself onto the shaft is by a keyway right there. Try to get it focused for you guys. So what I'm assuming happened is when my customer's landscapers hit something, they were still holding the lever to engage the auger. However, that force from whatever they hit was sent back to the shaft here and the hub, sheared the key, and then because he was still holding the lever, the engine was still rotating the belt under tension, thus still rotating this pulley here and wearing the shaft down, or wearing the ID, or inside diameter, of this hub here. So we're going to go back to the snowblower, have a look at the shaft, and see how badly damaged that is. So I have the light on my camera here. I'll try to zoom in so you guys can see all the fine metal shavings on the little housing here. There's a bearing in there. If we check for play, there's no end play, there's no movement, so that bearing there is good. And this shaft, if I lift up on this, that rotates freely, so there's no damage there. And if I can get a nice shot here for you guys, it appears that the shaft may have a little bit of damage here, but other than that, that shaft is still in good condition. So So it looks like we're going to have to order some parts for this snowblower to get this thing fixed up. Now, while I do have access at parts like this that are fairly generic, such as the flaps for the auger impeller here, you guys can see Sten's flaps. Those have been changed. Unfortunately, I don't have access at the OEM type parts like this, so I can get cables and belts and stuff. But whenever I need something like this, I have to order direct from my local distributor. Now on these Toro power clears, if you come down to the bottom right corner, you will see the sticker here. So the model number on this unit is a 38742, and there's your serial number right below it. Now, one very positive thing I can say about Toro is they always provide the parts diagrams and part numbers on their website for all of their equipment. All you have to do is go to Google and type in this case, Toro 38742. Then you're going to find the Toro.com website, and you're going to click on that link. Once you click on that link, you will have a section where you can choose the serial number of your unit. In this case, our serial number is 40434, and there's one right at the top that starts at 431. So 434 comes after that, so we're going to click on that one. At that point, we can look for the rotor drive assembly diagram, and we're going to click on that. That'll give us an exploded view of all the parts and also the part numbers that go with it. And we can see that there are a few part numbers listed. Now, because our pulley is cracked, we are going to need number 6, and the little hub or the insert that goes in there also has the key ground down from it. But you'll notice if we look on the parts diagram here, there is no separate part number for that insert, which means we can only order the pulley as an assembly. So if you had a pulley that was not cracked, but you had one of these inserts that had a worn out key, unfortunately you have to buy this assembly as one piece. So looking at our parts listing, we can see all of the parts that we need to order. All of these prices on the right are going to be in US currency because this is Toro.com that we were looking parts up on. But basically, there's the pulley. It is a 121-6624. And if we look, sure enough, there is the part number right on the top of the pulley there, 121-6624. We are going to be ordering, again, the Belleville washer. So that's going to be a curved washer that gets compressed. We're going to order a new screw, and we're going to order the new belt, which is a 121-662. Now, because I'm a Sten's dealer, I have that belt in stock already. So there it is, Toro 121-662 is a Sten's 265-023, and that is going to be a multi-ribbed belt. So I have the belt in stock. I'll go ahead and get the other parts on order, and I'll bring you back when I have them in. Now at this point, we don't need the old belt anymore on this particular unit. So what we can do is remove that. The belt seems to be in decent condition, but like my customer said, he wants a new one installed. So I'm just going to give this one to him, and he can just keep this one as a spare, again, in case his guys hit anything else, which he says happens more often than he would like. We can get our new Sten's belt installed, pushing the belt in between the housing here that acts as a belt keeper. We'll seat it into the pulley. We'll come around the underside of the idler pulley on top of this belt keeper here. All right, so I got some new parts in. We have the bolt with a little bit of blue thread locker already applied to it. The Belleville washer, it has a little bit of a dome to it, so that'll compress and hold that bolt into position, as well as the blue thread locker there. We have a brand new pulley here. So as you guys saw, the key was completely ground off on that center hub on that one, and the new one here, you guys can see the key is in excellent condition. So we are now ready to install some new parts. Now, if you guys are regulars here on my channel, you'll know that I am a huge fan of using Permatex nickel anti-seize on snowblowers, especially anywhere that there's going to be moisture or water. So as you could imagine, this is a snowblower, and you're going to normally be burying these things in snow. So this entire section is going to be filled with snow that can melt and turn to water and can rust and corrode things. So we've applied a nice coating of Permatex nickel anti-seize to that shaft there in the keyway, as well as on the face of the shaft, making sure not to get any in the threads because we don't want to interfere with the blue thread locker that they use. So we're not trying to lubricate the threads, just prevent the hub of the pulley from seizing to the shaft. Once again, big shout out to Permatex for sending this our way. Now, before we install the new pulley, I just wanted to point out that there is going to be a side where the center hub sticks out a little bit and the other side is going to be flush. So when we took this pulley off, the flush side was facing outwards, and that makes sense because if we look at the shaft here, you're going to see that there's a little area that goes in where the bearing sits, and it would not make sense for the flush side to sit up against that. It would make more sense for the raised section here to go in like that. Now, as I've always said, you can never really trust anyone else's work. So whenever you're working on a piece of equipment that someone else has worked on, you always want to double check stuff like that. Just because you take something off and it's in a certain position doesn't always mean that's the way that it is intended to go back on. So we always want to double check, make sure that we're assembling things properly. Okay, so we have the belt wrapped around the new pulley here, and just to show you guys the key, I've set to the top position because the key on the shaft is also on the top position. And then one thing that I wanted to point out is at this point, you just want to double check to make sure that the belt is seated into the groove of the pulley that is coming off of the crankshaft of the engine, as well as check the belt to make sure that it's seated in the idler pulley, and that will ensure you have enough slack on the belt to install the pulley onto the lower shaft. And once again, with the lever up top slightly pulled to release a little bit of tension off of that brake there, we should be able to line that up and press that on. And again, the reason why we were replacing the original bolt was because there was some damage to it. So I just wanted to show you guys that. We have the new bolt here, and once again, we are going to be installing the Belleville washer right there with the dome facing the head of the bolt. So once again, 7/16 socket on a ratchet. We're not going with the impact. We're going to tighten that bolt up, and you're going to have to tighten it up fairly well because we want to compress the Belleville washer. Now, if you guys are regulars here on my channel, you'll know that I do commonly use torque specs so that I can properly tighten down a bolt. However, if I pull up the operator's manual for this particular snowblower, you'll see that when you're changing a belt, it just says to remove the bolt and the pulley, and then when you're reinstalling it, you're just going to reinstall the Belleville washer with the concave side towards the snowblower, and then tighten down the bolt. Toro does not list any torque specs there. So I just went ahead and used the ratchet with 7/16 socket to tighten it down. And whenever you're tightening down a Belleville washer, you only want to tighten the bolt down until the Belleville washer is flat. So we have brand new rotor pulley installed, brand new belt, brand new Belleville washer and bolt. So I'll get the 3/8 cover bolts with the cover reinstalled. So we'll take this thing outside, fire it up, see how it runs. Now, before I fire it up, I will be double checking the oil here. This particular 721E with the 212cc engine takes 20 ounces or 600 milliliters of 5W30 oil. And one of the easiest things to do to extend the life of your equipment, check that out, guys. Frequent oil changes. So that oil, not only enough capacity, but that's nice and fresh, and you always want to make sure these little plastic oil knobs or screws, caps, whatever you want to call them, are tight because these commonly come loose. All right, so this repair has been finished up. You guys could see when I lifted the front end there, I was just checking to make sure if the tension for the belt was proper because when the engine crankshaft is turning, if the cable has too much tension on it, it will engage the belt. So basically, when you lift the front of the machine up, the front auger should not be spinning, and it's not. So essentially, when the engine is running and the lever is in the disengaged position, the belt or the impeller should not be turning. And you guys can adjust that via this little bracket here. So if you wanted more tension, you would take that cable with the Z-bend and move it up a hole, and it would put more tension on the cable, thus more tension on the idler arm and more tension on the belt. So if the belt ends up stretching a little bit, you can always go there, make that quick adjustment, and tighten it up down the road whenever they need to. And what are the odds of this, guys? So after I just finished up this job, a friend of mine just dropped this off to me, said I could have it for free. He said the engine is blown on this particular unit. He thinks it's a cracked connecting rod. So I pulled off the outside cover, and sure enough, there's the Belleville washer and the bolt that we needed. However, the other job's already done. If he would have been a few days earlier, we would have been able to steal some parts off of this one. At least now I have some extra parts that I can use if they ever damage another 721E or these CCR 2450s. They're pretty much made all of the same parts, guys. And like I said, the landscapers love them, so they have lots of them. And I'm always getting them in for repairs, so it's always nice to have some spare parts. Well, that's going to wrap up today's video. Easy enough repair. We just had to wait for the parts to come in. With that being said, if you guys enjoyed the video, think about leaving me a thumbs up. You know, it really helps me out. You can click here to subscribe and click over here to watch one of my previous videos. I upload every single week, so be sure to stop on by next week, check channel out for new content. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.